If Mr. Braswell,
Yes,
the floor is
yes.
yours. Please proceed.
Thank you. Aloha, Chair Tarnas and committee members. My name is Scott Braswell. I'm asking that you please oppose Bill 1847. This is an owner's bill that will pit neighbor against neighbor with virtually no evidence of wrongdoing. And to benefit whom? Where does this end? Fireworks, traffic violations? I can see the courts being filled with frivolous lawsuits or worse. It's a dangerous precedent. Is Texas the new role model for how to enact reckless and irresponsible law? Maybe this isn't your intention, but this bill will certainly has the potential to separate and divide us. It will encourage neighbors to spy on neighbors for money. I find this reprehensible. I was taught neighbors take care of neighbors. You're proposing not only a change to our law, but to our culture. I find it a sad day that a bill like this would even merit consideration in our great state, the Aloha State. I urge you to oppose this bill. Mahalo.
Thank you very much, Mr. Braswell. Next, we have received written testimony in opposition from Lois Crozer, Edward Jones, Adam Rose. We also have testimony in opposition from Martine Aceves Foster, who is here today to provide oral testimony. Ms. Aceves Foster.
Okay.
The floor is yours. Please proceed.
Thank you. Aloha. My name is Martina Aceves Foster. Thank you, Chair and members, for allowing me to speak. I oppose this bill because it encourages vigilantism. It'll poison our neighborhoods by deputizing citizens to sue their neighbors for hosting short-term rentals, whether true or not, even pit family against Ohana. Does Hawaii really want to follow Texas' lead in this respect? HB 1847 even offers a bounty of $25,000 to individuals who take their neighbors to court. For someone who could really use an extra $25,000, that's powerful motive, even with little or no evidence. This bill robs our island home of Aloha. This is an insidious bill. Instead, it makes far more sense for the counties to reestablish the MOU with Expedia and Airbnb and fund the departments of planning and permitting so they can do their job. This will be a far more civil way to monitor short-term rentals. Please preserve peace, privacy, and aloha in our neighborhoods. Mahalo.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Next, we receive written testimony in opposition from Mark Pagadone, Lily McAfee, Elizabeth Roney DeYoung, Terry Lodge, Eddie Baladad, and John Chang. We have testimony in opposition from Valerie Leal. And if Valerie Leal is here, the floor is yours. Valerie Leal, if you are in the Zoom room, yes, please proceed. Unmute yourself and proceed. Thank you.
Yes, hi. Thank you for allowing me to testify. I oppose this bill. This bill has many issues, especially the unconstitutional violation of people's rights by allowing government to interfere with individual property through its own citizens, empowering citizens to file civil suits against each other by regulating who can be there and what they can do while on site is a monumental constitutional violation. It's a double-edged sword because it becomes a property right issue as well. How can my neighbor decide the number of tenants, guests, or family members that can stay in my own property? We understand short-term rentals have nuances in certain neighborhoods, whereas in some, they're a welcome part of the culture, resorts and mixed-use condominiums. I can't imagine this law being enforced in a condominium or any neighborhood at all. Incentivizing the no-so-friendly neighbors to stalk and possibly harass property owners, their family, and guests will create a dysfunctional dynamic in our neighborhood and buildings. This goes 100% against the aloha spirit in our culture. I think it comes down to private property owner rights. The neighbors have no business telling a property owner who they can rent to or for how long. Just imagine if the city or neighbors try to enforce Bill 1847 on the crack houses around Oahu with 5 cars in the yard in total disrepair, or the horror home piled full of rubbish with about 7 family members who have friends coming and going, or the neighbor's garage party house that throws parties every weekend. or that guy on the block that has 6 cars parked on the street. So are citizens able to start war on each citizen? Would this bill empower us citizens to commence a civil action in district court on our own behalf against any owner of a dwelling in similar situation like the examples above? That certainly is a disruption to our neighborhoods and our culture. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And finally, we have testimony in opposition from Georgetta Chalk. Is Georgetta Chalk with us on Zoom? Georgetta Chalk. If you're here, the floor is yours. No? Guess not. Okay. Georgetta Chalk is not available. So that is all the testimony that we've received on this measure. Questions, members of our testifiers? Any questions? Seeing none, thank you very much to our testifiers. We'll move on to the next measure. House Bill 2016, relating to the Sand Island State Recreation Area. First off, we have testimony from the Chair of the Board of Land and Natural Resources, Suzanne Case. Chair Case, the floor is yours. Please proceed.
Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, committee members, Suzanne Case, Chair for Department of Land and Natural Resources. And I am going to defer to our administrators on these bills, but I just want to thank you for hearing them. Kurt?
Good morning, members of the committee, chairs, vice chairs. Kurt Cottrell, Administrator for the Division of State Parks. We stand on our written testimony in support and appreciate the attention that this beleaguered park may receive with additional funding for planning and optimizing it in the future. And I'm available if you have any additional questions. Mahalo.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cottrell and Chair Case. Next, we have received written testimony with comments from the Department of Budget and Finance. That's all the testimony that we've received on this measure. Members, do you have any questions for our testifiers? No? Seeing no questions from anybody, then we'll move on. Thank you very much to the testifiers. Next bill, HB 2229, relating to coastal erosion. We have received testimony with comments from Michael Kane of the Department of Land and Natural Resources, Office of Conservation and Coastal Lands. Mr. Kane, are you available?
I am available. My video seems to be off. There we go.
There you are. We see you now. Please proceed.
Thank you. Good morning. The department appreciates that this committee will be examining coastal erosion, and we've taken the opportunity to update you on what the current situation is in the Ahupua'a of Pamalu and Pupukea, which is where Ehukai Beach Park is located. A quick summary of our position. The proposal is to study the impacts of sandbags on beach processes in the area. Our department feels that those effects are well known and have been well studied. And given the current ongoing environmental crisis in the area, we'd recommend that the committee instead examine ways to study adaptive management and planning for the region. And I am available for questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kane. Next, we have received written testimony with comments from the Department of Budget and Finance. Next, we have testimony in support from the University of Hawaii, Dolan Eversole. Dolan, the floor is yours. Please proceed.
Aloha. Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the committee. My name is Dolan Eversole. I'm here to represent Darren Lerner of the University of Hawaii Sea Grant Program. I'm going to stand on our written testimony, but I am happy to answer any additional questions if you have any.
Thank you very much. Next, we received written testimony in support from this Dr. Michael Foley with Oceanit Laboratories. Dr. Foley, if you're available, the floor is yours. Please proceed.
Yes, thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, committee members. My name is Michael Foley. I'm a senior coastal engineer with Oceanit in Honolulu. I stand on my written testimony on behalf of myself and Oceanit. We support this bill. In summary, I think more data to make decisions based on data is important, especially for this area where the beach is very fluid and erodes and accretes significantly over the course of a year. And I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Foley. And finally, we have received written testimony in support from Denise Antolini, which you have in your packet of testimony. That's all the testimony that I've received on this measure. Members, do you have any questions for our testifiers? Nope, seeing none, we will move on to the next measure. Actually, just before we go on, I do want to acknowledge Mr. Kane. Thank you for taking the opportunity in your written testimony to bring us up to date on the work that you are currently doing regarding these emergency shoreline stabilization measures. I look forward to further updates on this in later hearings so that we can be kept up to date on your proposed rulemaking process that you are working on. So thank you, Mr. Kane. Okay, that said, let's move on to the next bill, House Bill 2262, relating to water rationing. First, we have a written testimony with comments from the Department of Taxation. Is there a representative here? Yes, we do have a representative from DOTAX. Please proceed.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, members. Josh Michaels on behalf of the Department of Taxation. We'll stand on our written testimony offering comments available for any questions. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Mr. Michaels. Next, we have testimony from DLNR, Chair Case. Or a representative of DLNR.
Morning, Chair Tarnas.
Good morning, Mr. Fujii. Please proceed.
Yep. Good morning, Chair and committee members. The department stands on our written testimony and here to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Neil Fujii with the Commission on Water Resource Management in DLNR. Next, we have written testimony with comments from the Department of Budget and Finance, written testimony in support from the Honolulu Board of Water Supply, and testimony with comments from the Tax Foundation of Hawaii. Mr. Tom Yamachika, if you're here, the floor is yours. Please proceed. Mr. Yamachika, are you here? I don't hear or see him, so we will move on. That's all the testimony that we've received on this measure, HB 2262. Members, do you have any questions for our testifiers? Seeing none, we'll move on to the next measure. Thank you very much to our testifiers. The next measure is House Bill 2288 relating to land, transferring certain lands from UH to Department of Hawaiian Homelands. On this measure, we have testimony in support from the Department of Hawaiian Homelands. Mr. Tyler Gomes, if you're available, the floor is yours. Please proceed.
Good morning, Chair. We were able to finish the other hearing, so this is Chairman William Ayla. Thank you, Chair Tarnas, Vice Chair Bronco, and members of the committee. We do stand in strong support of this measure and offer a public apology to the University of Hawaii because it's their lands that may come to DHHL for affordable housing.
Thank you, Chair Ayla. I'm glad to welcome you to our committee hearing today. Next, we have received testimony in opposition from the University of Hawaii. Mr. Calvert Young with University of Hawaii is here. The floor is yours. Please proceed.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, members. Thank you, Director Ayla. Appreciate the acknowledgement from DHHL. And the University of Hawaii has submitted testimony. We respectfully are going to oppose this bill. The property, although the bill doesn't explicitly identify the parcel in question as being owned, the title owner, we are confirming that it is owned by the University of Hawaii. The University of Hawaii has plans for land and would object to the taking of any of its real estate. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Mr. Young. Next, we have written testimony from Barbara Berry in support and written testimony in support from Johnny May Perry. That's all the testimony we've received on this measure. Members, do you have any questions of our testifiers? Vice Chair Bronco, please proceed.
Yes, I do. For Mr. Isla, please.
Turn off your microphone.
Yes, Vice Chair.
Mr. Isla, could you just kind of paint the picture of, I strongly believe that one of the best ways to help the Department of Fine Homelands is to provide land in the urban core, especially on Oahu, because that's limited in your inventory. I was just hoping you could expand more upon that.
Yes, and I would also point out that this is along the transit corridor, so it provides a unique opportunity to go vertically up and get more units, and it's in an area that's walking distance from a community college, retail outlets, stores. So our shortage of land on Oahu, where we have the greatest amount of folks on the wait list, has always been problematic for us. And your sponsoring of this bill would assist us in providing more opportunities for members on our beneficiary classes on the wait list.
Thank you. Chair, if I may ask another question?
Yes, please proceed, Vice Chair.
This question is for Mr. Young.
Turn off your microphone.
Sorry, excuse me. Mr. Young, so this is not the first time that this property has come up in question about being transferred. I wanted to ask about the plans in 2017. In the university's testimony, they talked about allowing the State Department of Defense to use the property. And so why is that different than allowing the Department of Hawaiian Homelands to use the property?
Yes, so the history for the university, especially on these particular parcels in and around surrounding Leahi. So the university actually, there's a number of parcels that are around Leahi. The university has been leasing the parcels to other governmental agencies and some nonprofits, including Department of Defense, Department of Health, Hawaii Health Systems Corporation, and some other nonprofits over there. But the university also has been trying to explore utilizing those properties that the university does have, including at Leahi. So for about 2 years now, the university has already been working on modifying those previous leases as to position it so for additional development. So that's in the testimony I referenced. We've already begun some due diligence exploration that involves this parcel and the other ones that I mentioned or referenced around Leahi.
Could we dive into what due diligence that you folks have already have put into place for this parcel?
Yep, we've already done appraisals on the 3 parcels, including this one. We've also done some consulting examination for entitlement purposes, soil surveys, environmental.
Would it be possible for you to forward to the committee those plans and what studies have already been done for this piece of property?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Vice Chair. Other questions? Representative Ganadin. Yes, use mic. Up close, up close.
We're trying to figure this out. For Mr. Isla. Good morning, Director.
Yes. Good morning.
Hey, this is one of the finest neighborhoods in the state right here at Diamond Head. Were the Department of Hawaiian Homelands to receive this property, would the trust allow you to use this to do anything other than housing, to generate funds, to utilize this property in relation to tourism and how many people drive by this place, that kind of thing?
It would depend on the legislation coming over, whether it was limited in terms of uses. If it came over unlimited, then the department would be able to utilize it for all of the purposes that you just mentioned. However, our greatest need is for housing on the island of Oahu. And I apologize, our camera is not working, so that's why you're not able to see me.
No worries. I know what you look like. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Representative Ganadin. Representative Kobayashi, please proceed.
Hello. For the representatives' information, this property and other properties in and around Leahi Hospital have been discussed as possible development for many years by many organizations. The usual problem has been that no one, the university and the Department of Health, has really made any serious efforts to better utilize these properties. For Vice President Young, is the ownership or the vesting of the land with the university subject to transfer if we add language to the effect of notwithstanding X provision that the land be transferred?
I'm sorry, could you explain a little bit further?
I'm sorry.
what that would-
In previous, the point that you had made that the land could not be transferred from the University of Hawaii because the University of Hawaii is a body corporate. Has made for all kinds of problems. I was advised many years ago that we could get around this problem of the university being a body corporate and being the only agency that could unilaterally transfer the land, that if we wrote legislation to the effect that the land be transferred, notwithstanding XYZ, that the transfer could be made via statute.
I don't think I know enough about, I don't know if the AG is on. I couldn't answer that.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Kobayashi. Any other questions, members? Representative Kobayashi, if you want to, do you have another question or your hand's still up? You're done.
No, please
Okay.
put my hand down.
Okay, thank you very much. I see no further questions. We'll go on to the next measure. Thank you to the testifiers. Next, we have House Bill 2489. This is relating to historic preservation. First, we have written testimony with comments from the Department of Land and Natural Resources, Dr. Alan Downer, State Historic Preservation Division. The floor is yours. Please proceed.
Aloha, Chair. I'm Alan Downer. I'm the administrator of the State Historic Preservation Division. The department stands on its written testimony, providing comments. I'd be happy to answer any questions if there are any later.
Thank you very much. Next, we have written testimony in opposition from the Society for Hawaiian Archaeology and written testimony in support from Barbara Berry. That's all the testimony we've received on this measure. Members, do you have any questions for our testifier? Seeing none, we'll move on. Thank you very much, Dr. Downer. Next, House Bill 1656 relating to trails. On this measure, we have testimony from the Department of Land and Natural Resources. We're blessed with many representatives here who will speak today. Mr. David Smith, please proceed.
Yes, good morning. David Smith, Administrator with the Division of Forestry and Wildlife. The department will stand on its written testimony in support and offering additional comments. If you have any questions, myself and Bill Stormont are here to answer any questions you might have about the program. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Next, we have written testimony with comments from the Department of Budget and Finance, written testimony in support from Tony Withington of Kamakani Okohala Ohana, and written testimony in support from Elizabeth Roney DeYoung. That's all the testimony we have received on this measure. Members, do you have any questions for our testifier? Seeing none, we'll move on. Thank you very much, Mr. Smith. The next bill is House Bill 1766 relating to state parks. On this measure, we've received testimony in support from DLNR. Mr. Kurt Cottrell, the floor is yours. Please proceed.
Good morning, Chair, members of the committee. Mahalo. While I am tempted to stand on my written testimony, I do feel compelled to just let you folks know, and I'm going to echo the testimony a little bit. We're in the bottom fifth of funding in the United States as a state park system. We're in the dead last category in terms of positions we have. We're in the top 20 in the United States of visitation to our park units. This measure, coupled with what we did during the pandemic when we initiated a very robust fee, has placed us in a position pretty much for the first time in the history of the Division of State Parks since its inception to have a budget that is commensurate with what our responsibility is. The 12 million mark that we're requesting the ceiling to hit, we anticipate exceeding that by the end of the fiscal year. One of the things we did not expect during the pandemic and when we did the fee increase was the rapid resurgence of the visitor industry, particularly from the US mainland market. And when that happened with the new fees, our special fund revenue just started pouring in, and we don't even have the Asian market back in place yet. So we do have a very robust and aggressive spending plan associated with this money, because we realize just because we have the funds, we can't just ask to raise the ceiling, because we have a variety of targets where this money is going to land. Quick example, State Parks hasn't purchased a new vehicle since 2014. All of our vehicles are GSA, government surplus vehicles, which when you go in that route, repair costs start mounting very quickly. And that's just one Menini example of where we need to reinvest in the Hawaii State Park system. We have a $42 million backlog of deferred repair and maintenance that we can start chipping away at. The lifeguard situation, as you know, has always been a challenge for us in terms of cobbling together funding from a variety of sources. This would give us that kind of stabilized budget assurance that we can, cover those contract costs without having to beg you guys for TAT or additional funds. Obviously, if this continues, it's an opportunity to grow the state park program with staffing. I'm reticent to do that right off the bat because you guys did us a solid favor in 2020 by converting our 48 special fund positions to G funds, which was critical because we had zero income for a period of time. But if the pandemic continues to reduce and our tourism economy stabilizes, in future years, we will be looking at reinvestment of this revenue to rebuild our staffing base. Back in the day, we were up to almost 200 people, which is still very low. The primary thing we need right now are boots on the ground, monitoring visitors and taking care of really critical park resources. So thank you for listening. That was very therapeutic for me. We're in strong support of raising the ceiling.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cottrell. And you're right, you do need to have a plan so that we can be justified in increasing that special fund ceiling. Okay, sorry for that commentary, members, but wanted to make sure that was clear. Next, we have testimony from Paula Akana in support from the Friends of Iolani Palace. That's all the testimony we received on this measure. Members, do you have any questions? Representative Kobayashi.
Good morning. Kurt, what would be the expected year-end special fund balance?
Well, you kind of need a Ouija board based on the pandemic impacts, but right now we're sitting on about 9 million in our special fund, and we haven't deposited all of the revenue from the holiday season, which was pretty significant. And then we're looking at spring break, which is another typically peak visitation season for us with the visitor industry. So while I think 12 is conservative, it could range anywhere between 12 to maybe 14 or 15. And part of our plan is we would like to have some savings that we roll over into the future fiscal year. Ideally, a $2 million special fund cushion would be great to have as we start each first quarter of our next fiscal year until other funds are released and other revenues are accommodated. So could be up to 14, possibly.
Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Kobayashi. Thank you, Mr. Cottrell. Any other questions, members? Seeing none, we'll move on to the next measure. And that would be House Bill 1769 relating to rapid OHIA debt. On this measure, we have testimony and support from the Department of Land and Natural Resources. Mr. David Smith, please proceed. The floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you again, David Smith, Administrator with the Division of Forestry and Wildlife. We would like to stand on our testimony and support with the usual disclaimers. Rapid OHIA death is one of our most pressing forest health issues with lots of long-term ramifications for native forest statewide. Really appreciate the support to date and support going forward. As per plans, we do have a detailed 5-year response plan that was developed in 2020. So all the requests that we are making are related directly to that plan. If you have any questions, I'm here. And also Rob Hoff is here, who is our Forest Health and Protection forester here at staff. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Next, we have written testimony with comments from the Department of Budget and Finance, written testimony and support from the Hawaii Farm Bureau, testimony and support from Walter Bowen at the University of Hawaii. Walter Bowen, the floor is yours. Please proceed.
Yes, aloha. Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. We stand in support of our written testimony, or we would like to make it clear that we strongly support DLNR's involvement in this program. We've had a long history of working closely together, and I'm here to answer any questions as needed. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Next, we have received written testimony and support from Christy Martin with the Coordinating Group on Alien Pest Species, written testimony and support from Barbara Berry, and written testimony and support from JB Friday. That's all the testimony we've received on this measure. Members, do you have any questions for our testifiers? Seeing none, we'll move on. Thank you very much to our testifiers. Next measure is House Bill 1497 relating to invasive species. On this measure, we have testimony with comments from the Department of Land and Natural Resources. Is that you as well, David Smith?
Yes.
Please proceed.
David Smith, Administrator, Division of Forestry and Wildlife. We submitted written testimony. We'll stand on that. We support generally the concept of improved forest management and agree that that would help improve some of the flood issues that we've been seeing. We have some comments on the bill as written. Thank you. I'm here for questions if you need.
Thank you very much. Next, we have testimony with comments, testimony in support from the Hawaii Housing Finance and Development Corporation. We have testimony with comments from the Department of Budget and Finance. We have testimony and support from Darlene Yoshizumi with the organization WWCA. Is Darlene Yoshizumi with us today? If not, we'll move on. Thank you very much for your written testimony. Members, please refer to that. In addition, we have written testimony in support from the following individuals: Paul Zweng, Rainbow Uli'i, Penny Raposa, Sherry Pollock, Ching Salas, Lilia Galachinao, Sam Ohugan, Cynthia Hopkins, John Morgan, Norman Sadoyama, Lynette Williams, Larry Williams, Barbara Berry, Ryan Ringett, Luella Aquino, John Rapoon, Henry and Violet Roberts, Sam Kakazu, Vivian Lee and Charlie Rapoon, and Tony Lynn Cano. That's all the testimony we have received on this measure. Members, do you have any questions of our testifier? Seeing none, we'll move on. Thank you very much, testifiers. Next measure, House Bill 1577, relating to the Kaho'olawe Island Reserve Commission. On this, we have testimony and support from the Kaho'olawe Island Reserve Commission, and I believe we have Mr. Michael Naho'opi'i here today to give testimony. The floor is yours. Please proceed.
Thank you very much, Chair. Michael Naho'opi'i, Executive Director for the Kaho'olawe Island Reserve Commission. Thank you for hearing our bill in support for funding and for additional personnel. I think many of you have seen me over the years asking for funds. Since 2018, we've been receiving some general funds for our personnel and for our operations on Maui. The last piece of what we're looking for is to be able to fund the on-island base camp and infrastructure that we have on the island. So what people don't realize that not only is my 14-man crew doing the restoration on Kaho'olawe, we also run the boat shuttle between the islands. We run the infrastructure on the island. We're generating power, electricity from our solar fields and batteries. We maintain the roads. We make our own water from salt water from desalination. So out of our small crew, we pretty much run an entire island, an entire city on Kaho'olawe. And we just need additional manpower. At one time, when we were funding it through the trust fund, we had up to 26 people working on the Kirk. And as the trust fund diminished over 25 years of being used through Run Kaho'olawe, we had to cut back on people, cut back on operations, and we're looking for some support this year to be able to help on island and continue the effort that we've been doing for almost 30 years. So thank you very much, and I'm available for questions.
Thank you very much for your good work, Mr. Naho'opi'i, and to your whole crew at the Kaho'olawe Island Reserve Commission. Next, we have written testimony with comments from the Department of Budget and Finance. And we have written testimony and support from the Planning Director, County of Maui. Testimony and support from the County Council Chair, Alice Lee, from the County Council, Maui County. Testimony and support from Herb Lee with the Pacific American Foundation. In support from Jody Rossum, Pulama Mau Environmental Consulting. Written testimony and support from Hokulani Holt Padilla. And testimony and support from Moana Bajur, Conservation Council for Hawaii. We have testimony in writing in support from a number of individuals, including Lopaka White, Carmela Noneza, Bruce Watson, Benjamin Guerrero, Cassandra Smith, Kawi Lucas, Heather Quintana, Nathan Nishimura, Anela Evans, Michael Walker, Larry Stevens, Kylie Marr, Sam Gon, Molly Mamaril, Kimo Cashman, Tambara Garrick, Kyle Kachihiro, Barbara Berry, Megan Lamson, Johan Winkler, Po'okela Henson, Joshua Akua, Dean Tokishi, Ann Fowl, Jan Beckett, Matt Hatakeyama, Robert Lee, Michelle Paskaya, Ann Kirk, Tapana Vuari, Manuel Kuloloio, Charlie Ice, Marty Martins, Tracy Aquino, Michelle Harmon, Robert Cole, Pamela Zerker, Phil Harris, and Edmund Clark with comments. The rest are in support. That's all the testimony we received on this measure. Members, any questions of Mr. Naho'opi'i? Nope, seeing none, we'll move on. Thank you very much, Mr. Naho'opi'i, for your testimony. And the final measure on our hearing notice today is HB 1095 relating to feral chickens. We have testimony with comments from DLNR. Mr. Kurt Cottrell, please proceed.
Hey, good morning. Last bill of the day for you guys. We stand on our written testimony in opposition of this measure. State Parks just is not skilled or equipped, nor would we even know where to find vendors or agencies that would help us eradicate feral chickens. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Next, we have testimony in writing with comments from the Department of Budget and Finance. Testimony with comments from the Hawaiian Humane Society, and testimony in support from Lauren Kim, Lynn Murakami Akatsuka, and Barbara Berry, all in writing in support. That's all the testimony we received on this measure. Members, do you have any questions of our testifier? Seeing none? Oh, yes, Mr. Kobayashi, Representative Kobayashi, please proceed.
Good morning. For Kurt, did you say that you couldn't find people outside of DLNR to help you on this issue?
I don't even know who we would reach out to. I suggested the Hawaii Humane Society through a grant and aid would be a much more appropriate and skilled agency. They have people skilled in animal collection, trapping, and whatnot. So that was the department's suggestion. It would be better served through a grant and aid to the municipal Hawaiian Humane Societies.
Well, okay. Per the Constitution, we cannot give a grant and aid except through accepted procedures. However, the Department of Land and Natural Resources, can do a contract with an outside agency. So if you got the money and could contract with an outside agency, would that then change your position on the bill?
Before answering, I'd have to get confirmation that the Hawaiian Humane Society would be willing and able to do so. We've had trouble just having them help us with dog issues. So I'd have to, confirm, because that's the only entity I would be aware of in my current capacity that might be able to pull it off.
Well, yeah, okay. Maybe you can find somebody who likes to eat chickens. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Kobayashi. Other questions, members? Representative D. Morikawa, please proceed.
Thank you, Kurt. I don't know if you can answer this, but I'm trying to think, how are you guys dealing with getting rid of the parakeets?
I'm not engaged in that whatsoever. Possibly Fortune or Life might be able to answer that in terms of if it's considered an invasive species.
Yeah, hi, this is David Smith, Administrator, Division of Forest and Wildlife. We have been contracting that work out to USDA. And we utilize USDA for animal control work pretty extensively.
Okay, I'm just thinking, chickens, parakeets are pretty similar, huh?
They're both birds for sure. But yeah, they have certain authorizations for where they can work and what purposes they serve. It might fit into their wheelhouse, or there may be some other contractors that would be willing and able to control chickens. I know that the county had a contractor for a while that was doing their chicken control work. So there's some different options out there in terms of chicken control. People seem to come and go on that, but some of the pest control companies too will do bird control work.
Right. Obviously, this is a conversation that we really need to have now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Representative. Are there any other questions from members? Seeing none. Thank you very much to our testifiers today on all of the measures before us in this hearing. We're going to move on to decision making, and we'll just go straight into it. Members, if you'd go back to the top of the agenda, we'll start with HB 1847. After reading all the testimony, listening to the testimony today, I personally don't think this is the best approach and would recommend that we defer this measure. Any discussion, members? Okay, moving on. House Bill 2016 relating to Sand Island State Recreation Area. Very important recreation area, underutilized, needs help. I propose that we move this forward with amendments. It will be a House Draft 1, blank out the appropriation amount, put in the committee report what we think the money might need, and change the effective date to July 1st, 2050, July 1st, 2050. That's my recommendation. Members, any questions, discussion? Representative Ganadin.
Thank you, Chair. As the representative for District 30, which includes Sand Island, this is a much needed bill to rehabilitate Sand Island. It's different from other state parks in that it is largely landfill. If we believe the projections for the 21st century, much of this might not be around, unfortunately, due to sea level rise. This is a unique opportunity for the state to experiment, to raise funds, and to best utilize the space for the community. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Representative Ganadin. Appreciate your advocacy for your community. Other discussion, questions, comments, members? If not, Vice Chair for the vote, HB 2016 with amendments.
The recommendation of the chair is to pass House Bill 2016 with amendments. Chair and Vice Chair vote aye. Representative Ganadin. Aye. Representative Kobayashi.
Aye.
Representative Kong.
Aye.
Representative Morikawa.
Aye.
Representative Ono. Aye. And noting the excused absence of Representative McDermott. The measure passes.
Thank you, members. Next, HB 2229 relating to coastal erosion. That's an important matter. I think we need data. There's clearly not exact agreement at the university about the scope of this research, but I think there's agreement that we need to do more work in this area to figure out the best way to deal with coastal erosion. Are these, emergency shoreline stabilization measures the most effective way to do it? What's the most effective way to handle it? So all that said, I think it is worth it to move forward a amended version of this bill. So here's my proposal: to do a HD1, change the effective date to July 1st, 2050, blank out the appropriations and put that in the committee report. I'd like to include the amendments that are in the written testimony from Denise Antolini, which more clearly defines the geographic area that we're looking at. And I would like to delete the section of the bill that established the temporary moratorium on the use of these emergency shoreline stabilization measures, because I do think that that is something that the DLNR should be able to continue to do. And then on page 1, line 8, I'm going to change the date to 2025 upon recommendation of HMSO staff. Those are my recommendations. Members, any questions, discussion? Representative Kobayashi.
Mr. Chair, I'm wondering what the geographic delineation would be.
It's in the testimony that you have, and I will pull it up. And
229.
It is from Denise Antolini.
Yeah, okay.
And she made specific recommendations, and I was suggesting that we include those. Actually, she recommended that we amend some language to the section, not just geographic area, so thanks for pointing this out, to add on to the impacts of these sandbag walls on sand movement patterns and coastal erosion, but also add on the words and on public trust resources, including beach access, coastal water quality, and recreation. I think that's good to include it. Page 1, line 4, page 2, line 2, we would add, including from the shoreline area near Keiki Road to Sunset Beach.
All right. I would suggest that maybe we try to be a little bit more expansive or flexible about areas, because obviously the area in and around Ehukai Beach Park is not the only area that's impacted by this kind of coastal erosion.
Good point. The introducer of the bill was concerned about the ballooning cost if we make the geographic area too large. So he was in agreement to expand it as suggested, but reticent about expanding it beyond that because of potentially making it so costly we won't be able to afford it.
Okay.
So I appreciate your suggestion. Yes, indeed, there are many places that have this issue. But I'd like to stick. Yeah, I'd like to stick with the recommendation that I made. Thank you. I appreciate your advocacy for your district.
Thank you.
Any other questions, members? If not, my recommendation stands. Vice Chair, for the vote on HB 2229 with amendments.
The recommendation of the chair is to pass House Bill 2229 with amendments, noting the excused absence of Representative McDermott for this measure and all future measures. Is there any reservations? Any no votes? The measure passes.
Thank you very much. Next, House Bill 2262 relating to water rationing. It's a good idea, but I don't think this bill is quite written in the manner that would work. And so I think we should defer this measure and ask the introducer to do some more work on it and come back again next session. Any comments, members? Okay, moving on. HB 2288 relating to land. Cognizant of this, what the University of Hawaii has stated, that they do have plans for this. Yet also keeping aware that there has been a lot of discussion about this property, and I think it's important to continue the discussion here at the legislature so that members here are fully informed about the university's plans, and also that they're aware of the need to provide lands to the Department of Hawaiian Homelands for meeting their needs for housing. These are both very important issues. With that in mind, I'd like to move this measure forward. I'd like to change the effective date to July 1st, 2050 as a HD1 and move it forward to the next committee for further consideration, and urge the university to provide additional information to us and to the next committee about your plans so that we can be kept informed about that going forward. Discussion, members, any comments?
Chair, if I may.
First to Vice Chair Branco and then Representative Kobayashi. Go ahead.
I'd just like to echo what you said as well, sir. And I also think this is a unique opportunity to place Native Hawaiians in the urban core, near a community college, near healthcare. And this is what we need to look for. And these are the solutions that we as a body have to look for to help our Native Indigenous population. Mahalo.
Thank you, Representative Branco. I appreciate that, Vice Chair. Representative Kobayashi, please proceed.
A friendly amendment. I believe the bill might be strengthened if we add the language about notwithstanding any law or provision to the contrary, land shall be transferred.
A good suggestion, and I will include that in my amendment. So thank you for that friendly amendment. Any other comments or discussion from members? Seeing none, Vice Chair for the vote. HB 2288 with amendments.
The recommendation of the chair is to pass House Bill number 2288 with amendments. Is there any reservations? Any no votes? The measure passes.
Thank you very much. Next to House Bill 2489. While this was well intended, I don't think it is quite achieving the goals of the introducer. I spoke with him. He agrees. So my recommendation is to defer this measure so he can do some more work on it. Any discussion, comments, members? Seeing none, let's go on to the next. House Bill 1656 relating to trails. This is a very important measure. There are so many opportunities for providing public access and trails that we don't have the ability to take advantage of because DLNR needs some more support. In particular, to identify what are the potential easements that we need to go across private lands to get to public lands that are mauka of those private lands, or on the other side, they're landlocked. And so in working with the DLNR, this is what the chair believes is the best approach. So my recommendation is to approve this with a House Draft 1, blank out the appropriation amount, put that into the committee report, and change the effective date to July 1, 2050 for further discussion, and move this on to House Finance. That's my recommendation. Members, do you have any questions or comments? Seeing none, Vice Chair for the vote, HB 1656 with amendments.
The recommendation of the chair is to pass House Bill number 1656 with amendments. Is there any reservations? Any no votes? The measure passes.
Thank you very much. Next, we'll move on to House Bill 1766. This is a very important bill to raise the expenditure ceiling of the State Park Special Fund. And we all have heard the importance of this in order for state parks to be able to utilize the funds that they now have. So with that in mind, I recommend that we move this forward as a HD1. As is customary, we'll blank out the appropriation amount, put it in the committee report, change the effective date to July 1, 2050, and move it on to finance. That's my recommendation. Members, do you have any questions or comments or discussion? Representative Kobayashi.
May I suggest that instead of black dollars, we put in 12 million? Keep the effective date.
Since you're on finance, I'll take your recommendation, sir, and I'll tell the chair that I followed your lead. Okay, very good. I will take that recommended amendment and keep in the $12 million as our recommended ceiling and change the effective date to July 1, 2050. I will accept the wise counsel of our one of our finance members, Representative Kobayashi. So that's my recommendation. Discussion, members. Seeing none, Vice Chair for the vote. House Bill 1766 with amendments.
The recommendation of the chair is to pass House Bill number 1766 with amendments. Is there any reservations? Any no votes? The measure passes.
Thank you. Next, moving on, House Bill 1769 relating to rapid OHIA death. Recommendation is to pass out HD1, change the effective date to July 1, 2050, blank out the appropriation amount and put it into the committee report. Questions or comments? Discussion, members? Seeing none, Vice Chair for the vote on HB 1769 with amendments.
The recommendation of the chair is to pass House Bill 1769 with amendments. Is there any reservations? Any no votes? The measure passes.
Thank you very much. Moving on to House Bill 1497 relating to invasive species. I think this is appropriate to move forward with the House Draft 1 and leave a blank appropriations amount actually, yeah, just and then change the effective date to July 1, 2050. Any comments or discussion, members? Seeing none, Vice Chair for the vote on HB 1497 with amendments.
The recommendation of the chair is to pass House Bill number 1497 with amendments. Is there any reservations? Any no votes? The measure passes.
Thank you very much. Moving on to House Bill 1577 relating to the Kaho'olawe Island Reserve Commission. I propose we move this out as House Draft 1, change the effective date to July 1, 2050, and blank out the appropriations and put that in the committee report. Discussion, members, questions, comments? Representative Ganadin.
My thanks to all the folks who've been working at the
Speak into the microphone.
My thanks to all the people that have been working on the Kaho'olawe Island Reserve for the last several generations to remediate this island. I think that this experience of having multiple generations of legislators discuss the history of this island and our interaction with the United States Navy is telling for our future interactions with the United States Navy. The fact that they are now coming to us to request continued funding to remediate this island, to work on its aquifer is going to inform the way we continue to work with the United States military.
Thank you, Representative Ganadin. Appreciate your comments. Any other comments, members? Seeing none, Vice Chair for the vote, HB 1577 with amendments.
The recommendation of the chair is to pass House Bill number 1577 with amendments. Is there any reservations? Any no votes? The measure passes.
Thank you very much. The last measure on our agenda is House Bill 1095. Feral chickens. They're a challenge throughout this entire state. Unfortunately, I do not think this bill is the most effective way to address the problem. I've spoken with the introducer, given him some suggestions, that he should follow up with the Humane Society on their suggestions and their testimony. And that in the meantime, my recommendation is to defer this bill and come back to it with hopefully another more effective solution in future sessions. There being no further business before us today, I declare this meeting adjourned.